Hey everyone, welcome to the Beyond Extent podcast, a podcast dedicated to a chat between two environment artists discussing everything about the industry we work in. I'm Timothy, and I'm joined by William, who is a friend and fellow colleague of mine. In this episode, we're doing something special, and we're going to be talking about our own older work and go into what we learned and what we could have improved on using 2020 hindsight. This was a really fun episode with loads of good lessons for people in the same position as we were back then, so let's dive straight in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beyond Extent podcast. This is episode 20. It's we're getting into the 20s right now. It's kind of crazy thinking about it. And we're back with me, Timothy, and William on the other side.
Hello.
I thought to go with like the silver lion and our dragon in the beginning, but nah.
Oh
I
no
don't
no
know.
no no no. Let's not make that a thing, please.
um, yeah. So today for this 20th episode, we wanted to talk about something different and something special, and we wanted to go over some of our first projects that we did, especially when trying to get into the industry. So I think it's going to be interesting just to have a look back and just discuss the things that we did back then and I mean all the stuff that can improve about them too.
Yeah. Yeah, because you might from all our other podcasts, you might be under the impression that we're perfect. Which I don't blame you for that impression. But today we're gonna find out that we're actually not perfect at all. And that we made a lot of mistakes in
Yep.
the early days, made a lot of bad art.
Look, and I'm just gonna speak for myself. I still do. I don't know about William, but
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I still do too. Yeah, I didn't want to make it sound like yes.
it's like
Oh
no,
yeah.
no. We made things in
Yeah,
the
that's
past.
that's all in the past. Oh yeah, no, that's the beauty about 3D, I guess, is you're never done learning, you're never done making mistakes, and especially when like the software and workflows evolve, there's always new stuff to learn, which is awesome. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I guess let's take a look at all the stuff we did before we knew all the stuff that we do now, which if we're not perfect now, then it definitely means that we're not perfect then.
Oh yeah.
I would even go as far and say the opposite. So yeah, let's look at it.
Yep. So I'll take it away, man. We're looking at EXO 654 interior. Yeah, that's a really catchy name.
That is a catchy name, my friend.
So this is from 6 years ago by now. And it might have been a little bit earlier because at some point I did like a re-render of it and it didn't really work out, but then I decided to publish it anyway. I don't know what I was doing here. But this is your typical just like space corridor.
Yeah,
Like
the good old sci-fi hallway.
yeah, exactly. The sci-fi hallway. Like everyone keeps talking about it, and yeah, I got caught in that trap too, and was like, I'm looking for something that I can do for fun on the side because this wasn't for uni or anything like that. It was more for like personal exploration, and yeah, just looking at it just makes me die a little bit inside, but. But I think this was still, if I remember correctly, this was still textured in Photoshop because back then I was using Endu and Dedu to do all the texturing.
Right.
So for people that don't know what that means, is Endu and Dedu were basically sophisticated add-ons for Photoshop, where they would automate like a lot of tasks and do like the entire setup for PBR as we know it now, but just make it super easy for you. Well, quote unquote. It's way easier now with Substance, but
It's pretty much Substance inside Photoshop, right? That's how I would call it, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, and then 5 times as slow probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was just like a small project when just trying to get familiar with modular buildings, because I wasn't really that familiar at that point with just how to break things up into Lego pieces and just trying to make it work together in a way.
So this is where it all started.
Yeah, yeah,
Your
sort
love
of.
for modularity.
Yeah, exactly. Um, it doesn't really show that well yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially the love for lighting isn't there yet. It's so
Oh,
dark, man. It's the same problem that I have. We're gonna see that. It's so dark.
yeah. It's just I don't think this was my first project in Unreal Engine, but like I did some dabbling in the engine at this
Yeah.
point. But yeah, you can totally see it. Like I was just trying to come up with some stuff that kind of looked interesting, but I couldn't get the lighting working. And then to hide some of the mistakes, I tried to implement like a fog sheet in the back so that you can't really see that far. And you have light leaking in the back. And yeah, it's like the roughness values are all over the place.
Yeah, and then there are these like super bright lights that have like an emissive texture at the top,
Yeah.
but they don't have any real light coming from them. It only goes like half a meter, and then the light stops.
Well, see, that's the thing. I added lights to it, but then
Yeah,
I didn't think to illuminate the entire hallway
right.
because I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I kind of want to make it creepy, but then I don't know. I added some bright lights on the top of it, and then just like I don't know, just not let them emit light.
yeah.
We have some breakdowns here as well, which is just super simple geometry. Now looking at it,
I
I
mean, yeah. There's some weird stuff, like some weird edges that I don't know why they're there, but it's not like horrible. I've made worse.
well, that's one thing you can say, right? It's optimized.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I mean,
there's like some
yeah,
edges here,
yeah,
and there's probably
exactly.
way too many edges on the wires. But I didn't. I think at this point, and this is something that is going to be apparent throughout some of the next projects as well. I was always afraid to add geometry.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, oh damn, the lighting only
Ooh,
because that was such a
that
cool
is.
thing to show off in this scene, right?
Oh my god, look at all these weird little artifacts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like, oh shit, this stuff is fucking up here. Nah, I'm just gonna ignore it. Just this
I
is
love
just.
that. I love that so much.
And then what even is happening in this one? Oh, this is the old render. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. So that the the one at the top was the updated one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, it looks cleaner. It's definitely more high res than this pixelated
Yeah,
mess that we're looking at right now.
definitely.
And also the thing that I want to point out is just the random use of emissive stuff, because that's always what makes it look sci-fi, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just have like some random emissive strips all over the place. Oh man.
I already love this episode, by the way. I love that we're just gonna be shitting on each other's stuff for a while. I love this.
It's also shitting on our own stuff, right?
Totally. Oh yeah.
Because it's that's the thing, like to take it back and put it in some perspective, everyone is going to have this at some point.
Oh yeah.
Even if you're just at the starting of this, like you shouldn't, how should I say this? I don't want it to affect you in like a negative way.
No, it's just like avoid the mistakes that we have done, right?
Yeah.
Like try to look at what what our works, like what they show and what they could have done better.
Hmm.
And of course, it's not, maybe you're not working on a sci-fi hallway right now, but still, like the stuff about the lighting and
Yeah.
about like
Just a
just like
presentation.
having, yeah, just all that stuff, you can still like translate that to your own work and be
Hmm.
like, oh, maybe I should take a second look at that in my own
Yeah.
scene.
So yeah, that would be a good one to take a deep dive into. Well, sort of deep dive. It's like, what would I improve about this scene?
Yeah.
So it would be definitely the lighting, just as we discussed. There's also a lot of random paneling going on all the panels.
Hmm.
It doesn't really make sense. Like
There's no purpose behind it, kind of,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. And then like these structures, what are they for? Like it's just
For the cool heating elements on the wall or wherever that is. The step ladder on the wall, the
yeah,
glowing step ladder.
Yeah, it's made for dwarves.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, it's just I would also just don't do the random emissive stuff. Like have it make sense. If it's like a panel that is, I don't know if it's like a display or if it's like a button that has like an emissive edge to it. Like it always needs to be set in some kind of um logical thing. Like
Yeah,
it
like
can't
why
just,
should this be highlighted right now?
yeah, it can't just be like a random strip of emissiveness just
Yeah,
on like a random tube. It
yeah,
needs to
like
have a
even
purpose.
yeah, even what would have made sense, like for storytelling wise, even would have been to have an emissive strip on the floor and be like, this is the for some reason the lights are off. That's why it's so dark, and that's like an emissive strip on the floor that shows you to the nearest exit, like in a plane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that. It would have made sense. But yeah, there was some weird stuff on the wall that I don't know what that is. I don't know why it's important to see that in the dark, right? Like that's what it would be for. Like maybe the grips glow in the dark so that in case there's a power outage and the the spaceship is tumbling through space, where to grip so you
Hmm.
don't fall over the place or something. I don't know, stuff like that could be interesting. And I think that's a really important point you brought up, is that in sci-fi everything should have like a purpose,
Yeah.
because you can't just copy a reference, because sci-fi stuff obviously doesn't exist in real life, at least usually. um, so yeah, it's important to think about why is there a panel there? Is it so that this part of the panel can be opened and there's like cables behind it, so it's like a maintenance thing, or
Hmm.
is that like, yeah, why is it constructed like this and not just as one big piece,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's especially with these just random paneling lines going all over. It's you need to find a balance between shapes as well
Yeah,
when you're designing stuff. So it would be nice to have like a larger panel to access like the components behind it, but then the rest of it could just be blank.
yeah,
Maybe just an emphasis on like the edges where you have like the transitions between panels that could be highlighted. I think that could work. But
yeah.
yeah, that's good. Do you want to go to one of your pieces or should we
Yes,
continue to my pieces?
I think, yeah, let's do like a ping pong thing. Let's do back
Yeah,
and forth.
sounds good.
All right. So yeah, I've also got something sci-fi-ish. um it's the, what did I call it, the sci-fi speeder desert scorpion. Oh yeah. um
Damn.
this was a really, like, at the time I was so excited about this project. Unfortunately, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, so i I made the high poly for this, and I didn't know how to like really work with a high poly and use it for baking. So what I did is I had a max file called sci-fi speeder, high poly, and
Hmm.
then I had a max file called sci-fi speeder high poly collapsed, because I collapsed
Oh,
all of the turbo smooth modifiers and
yep.
everything, and it's the worst. And I remember, because we learned in class that you could use Isoline Display in 3ds Max
Oh,
to
isolate.
no, it's called Isoline Display. It's really weird. It's on Turbo Smooth. You can, instead of having each and every line show of because Turbo Smooth
Uh huh.
pretty much divides everything by two, right? So it
Yeah.
adds the new mesh, the new edges in between. But if you have 3 iterations of Turbo Smooth on top of it, then it'll give you obviously a lot of lines, and you can't really see the
Yeah. It
the
just
shape
becomes
as much.
noise.
Yeah, so you can turn on Isoline Display, and it only shows the um like the edges of the original mesh, but it shows them like bending and stuff, because it's that's how they get when you put a turbo smooth on it. Maybe I can show you a picture.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard about that. Like,
Yeah, it's
but
just
it.
it's just like yeah, like this. So
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it would show you the lines like this, and I was using that, but there unfortunately is a bug in 3ds Max that when you collapse an Isoline Display turbo smooth, it keeps the shape of the turbo smooth. It keeps all the vertices, but it doesn't keep all the
It does.
edges. It only keeps the edges that are shown in the Isoline display, which is completely stupid. I don't know why it works like that.
Oh god.
But I was using that because I just heard about it in class and I thought it was so cool. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I'm going to collapse everything. And then my whole mesh was like just vertices and no edges connecting it. And it was horrible. Oh my God.
Oh,
And I had to go through like 193 separate objects to fix it. And then it was a complete mess.
that's
And
painful, man.
yeah, it's so painful. And then the texturing on this, I mean, you can see it's just very rough. Also, I'm pretty sure I
Wait, but before
yeah,
we go
yeah,
into the texturing, sorry to interrupt, but
no problem.
how would you do it now, the high poly? Because I ran into that same exact issue where I was like, okay, like I have a file for my collapsed high poly and then just the normal high poly. Like, how would you do it now?
Just not collapse it, because you don't need to, right? If you have the right export settings, it'll just export the at least in Max. Like I know it's a little bit different in Maya with the preview mesh,
Yeah,
but you can still
you
export
can
it, I think.
you can apply all the modifiers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in Max you can just have a turbo smooth modifier on it and then export it, and it'll have the smoothed object for the bake, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no need to collapse it now. I because yeah, back then I would have like different Max files for the same thing.
Yeah.
Now I just have one Max file for it, and there's the high poly in a folder, the low poly in a folder, and whatever else I have in there, like my backup stuff. So yeah, it's just keep the high poly in the subdivided form. You know, probably at this point I would go into ZBrush for some stuff, and then decimate it and put it back into Max and export it out, stuff like that. And also I think
this already looks a bit more advanced than my stuff, I would say.
maybe. I mean, this is from when I was in uni. This is 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's also the thing. We were talking about it before the podcast, right? That technically you started way earlier with 3D than I did. So maybe
yeah.
maybe there's some impact there.
Yeah, I think I started to take 3D a bit more seriously right before I came into uni, but I started with 3D when I was 14 or 13, something like that. Yeah, I had an internship.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the little storytelling patches with like the run and what do you have on the side, like eat dust.
Yeah,
and
it says like eat dust, and on the tank it says feed me. Yeah, I wanted to make it like a little bit of like a, you know, like I don't know, like a cowboy in the desert on some planet kind of thing, you know, like a modern cowboy type deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I had some cool ideas with like adding. There's like a canteen, a water canteen in like a pan. So maybe, you know, he has like all this stuff, like he's living on the speeder pretty much. So he can then, you know, make a little campfire and cook some stuff that he hunted or whatever.
That's pretty cool though. You already have like some storytelling and like narrative stuff in there to just reinforce that this is not just like a sci-fi speeder, but it is like someone's actual living space, or like they have like survival gear on it.
Yeah, that was a big thing with this. I wanted to make it like have a certain personality. The problem was just that my technical skills just weren't there yet.
Yeah,
I'm actually I'm not even too mad at the design of the speeder itself. I don't think it looks completely horrible, and it has kind of the silhouette of a scorpion, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
it does look interesting though. I like the presentation, by the way. The flashy yellow background.
Oh yeah, the background is cool, but first of all, way too high field of view. You know how I'm a stickler for the low field of view, and I'm pretty sure in the texturing process, I accidentally put like one fill layer at the top, and I forgot to turn off the metallic because everything's metallic.
Yeah,
like all the paint here, it's all metallic for some reason.
There's no variation in it.
Yeah, there's no variation. And
you can see it really badly there.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's just because I accidentally put a layer on top, and then I was too lazy to re-export it for some reason.
Yeah. It's just like, well, I'll just deal with it.
yeah. That's just how it's going to be now. It's not like, you know, there's any value in this stuff that I worked on for months. This is fucking leave it like that. I think that's a good thing to teach people as well. It's just don't be afraid to if you have something on ArtStation and then you get some feedback, don't. Of course, sometimes you can be like, oh yeah, I just want to move on to the next project and
Yeah,
be done
yeah.
with this. I get it, but a lot of the time, especially early on, small things can make such a big difference. Like for this,
Hmm.
I couldn't make this so much better by keeping the horrible texturing, but just fixing that metallic issue, and then doing a nice render with a low field of view and all that stuff, and it would already be a way nicer project. It would still look like crap texturing wise, but it would be a lot better already.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the most what is it? Not interesting, but like the most difficult part for people getting to that final 10%, like we talked about
Yeah.
in one of our last episodes. Just like trying to push through it because you're already thinking about your next project and you're already
Hmm.
dreaming up a ton of stuff for that. And sometimes you just need to take it slow at the end and just dedicate a lot of time to just the final parts, like the presentation, like the final tweaks for the texturing, like not having a fill layer with metallic on top of everything.
Yeah, that helps. That helps.
Oh,
Yeah, I
this
mean, I
is
don't have too much more to say about this. It was just about like pretty much everything technical is wrong about this. Like you can see, this horrible. I think there's some UV stretching going on as well, but
mhm.
there's some weird edges here.
I wouldn't say this
Horrible
is too
texturing.
bad though. Like if I were to
Yeah.
see this on like a junior portfolio, obviously there is some stuff that you can point out, like we just did, but it's not too bad. Like it shows the technical understanding of baking.
Mm,
Um, I mean,
I
it is.
guess. Oh, also the UV map for this is horrible. If I didn't make that clear that I didn't know
Oh
what I was doing.
damn! Oh, you're
This
not
is
showing
hard.
that off.
I am not. Yeah, because I knew that I shouldn't. Even then, I was like, nope, not showing this
Well,
one.
see, that's also an important point, right? Sometimes if you realize that you just want to move on, but you realize that there's like a big mistake like that,
Just hide it.
just don't show it off, please.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
only gonna shoot yourself in the foot. There is some pretty bad stuff in my scenes too, where I was like, okay,
Mm.
I'm not gonna show the individual assets because that's only gonna drag the perception of the whole scene down anyway.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All
Should we move
right.
on to the next thing?
Yeah. What have you got?
Oh damn! Then
Ooh.
I went from that sci-fi corridor that I was presenting at first, and then I decided to do this is for uni, by the way. I decided
Okay.
to do it was supposed to be like a 1v1 deathmatch level set using the Unreal Engine shooter template that they had.
Oh. Hmm.
So everyone was kind of creating like 1v1 deathmatch maps, and then at the end we would play the levels and have
Mm,
like deathmatch sessions against each other, which was pretty interesting.
that's cool.
Yeah, so I took inspiration from a lot of people that did like the one texture environments. Where I was like, I don't want to create like textures for all of this. I just want to have like one texture sheet that I'm gonna pull everything from and make like an entire scene with this.
Like an atlas.
Yeah, exactly. And like heavily using like RGB channels, which was like completely new. Then trying to up my lighting a bit as well, and just focusing a little bit more on the atmosphere.
But that is already like with the different channels and stuff. That's already pretty advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
I've never done that for my personal project. I was always, I don't know, too lazy for that. I guess it wasn't a personal project; it was for uni, but still. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think the one texture thing wasn't in the assignment, but I was just like, oh, if I'm gonna do something like this, I want to step up my modularity game and like try to challenge myself. Even though I couldn't even get to grips with like the basics at this step. I was like, oh, I wanna challenge myself in this new area.
Right. That's cool though.
Um, and I decided to go really heavy on the red. I don't know why. I don't think there's a good reason behind it, but I was just like, I just wanted to stand out from all the rest. And I just made everything, almost everything, just red.
I mean, if it all shares the same texture, you gotta you gotta pick a color and go with it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And what I was also trying to do with this, this is like a side tangent. I was also really active on Polycount and the Unreal Engine forums back then, but not in a way where I would interact with other people, but just like posting stuff and like reacting to people that had feedback.
Hmm.
And at the end, when I finished this, they actually featured this on the Unreal Engine channel on YouTube.
That is awesome.
So yeah, I totally didn't expect that, but it was really nice to see because it gave like a lot of people or it like it focused traction on my portfolio and it got me like a lot of views.
Totally, yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's like for like a modular scene, this isn't too bad. And I was also trying to work with vertex painting to have like more unique textures. I was using decals at that point too. But there's obviously like in this screenshot that I'm showing that's on the screen now is just the vertex paint wasn't really
Yeah.
working out. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
I couldn't get it to work properly. Didn't have that much time, so I was just like, I'll just leave it.
Yeah, I
um,
mean it's actually it's quite impressive, man.
and then
It's
I
like that size wise it's not too bad either, I feel like.
yeah, and I did also spend a lot of time on this,
Oh,
like
the cloth.
the cloth simulation, like was Apex Cloth with Nvidia that I was trying out. I think I took like at least 2 weeks to just set that up. Um,
Oh, they're the low poly cables where you're scared of putting too many polys in
oh, yep.
at the top there.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
weird, right? Like watching this video, you can see the low poly cables, which are like super apparent, but then the pipes in the background and like these fences in the foreground, they're like smooth.
They're completely smooth. Yeah, you're right.
So it's just like,
Yeah.
what was I doing?
I think that is definitely an important thing for people to understand that there's not just textile density, which is very very important
Hmm.
to have. What the fuck? To have. I'm sorry. It's super important to have like a the same kind of density of textures in your whole scene, so that you don't have like a super high res floor next to a box that has like 25 pixels, right? Just to have like a to keep you in the immersion, I guess, and it just looks better in general, right?
Hmm.
And the same thing goes for geometry. I mean, you always want to have the geometry where it counts. So like for the silhouette stuff like that, you don't need a flat wall. Doesn't have to have 1,000 subdivisions. But
Yep.
if you have, for example, the cables, they're pretty much just silhouette, right?
Hmm.
So there, if you look at, yeah, like you said, the fence, it's a completely different. It's completely different, a completely different density of polys. So it instantly jumps out at you when you look at it.
Yep.
You're like, so maybe if this was like a super low poly scene, like a mobile game scene, it wouldn't be a big deal. But because everything else looks so nice, it looks really strange to have that one part of the scene be like so low res.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's not that big of a deal to adjust anyway.
Yeah,
Like it would just be if you're using Blender, it would just be adding in some subdivisions, smoothing it out, and that's it.
yeah,
Like it's not that big of a deal. It takes like 1 or 2 minutes to get it right.
exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, this was an interesting project though because this I think this really sparked the love of just like modularity and like just the scope of it because the sci-fi corridor wasn't really it was just like a couple of pieces, but it didn't really trigger anything. I wasn't combining natural elements with modular elements at this point yet.
It's like it was, I would say, the baseline of stuff that you need to call something modular, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. Like the pure basics.
Yeah,
But in this one, yeah, it's like pushing it a little bit further and like adding some unique elements like the hologram in the middle, which is like a focal point and it contrasts really nice with just the rest of the scene.
totally. Yeah,
Um
field of
yeah.
view is too high, but
Uh,
I was just telling Timothy about this, that we had something like that on my Discord as well, and I can't stress this enough. Try out, do the screenshots for your thing that you're working on, then try it out with a lower field of view. Like I personally like really low, like 15 or something in Marmoset,
Mm-hmm.
and 99% of the time, I guarantee you, it's gonna make it look cleaner, more professional, and just nicer overall.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing sometimes, if you have like a scene that has very specific proportions, it can be hard to get all of it into the shot because
Yeah.
you have to have the camera so far away, and then maybe it might be clipping with something that's behind the camera. But I think it's worth it to try it out, because like I've done that for all of my scenes now. All the stuff that I've posted is like super low field of view, and it just, I don't know, I think it just looks so much better
Yeah.
without the
Feels
weird
more
distortions.
realistic.
Yeah, even though it's not, right? But I
Mhm.
guess it looks. Maybe I would even say it looks more cinematic, because
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it
yeah.
makes it look like a what is it? Would it be low field of view is like high millimeters on a camera lens? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I have no idea. But yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's
that's a
like a
good
movie
question.
camera with the black bars. It
Mhm.
makes it look cool and widescreen and stuff. It just looks good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really had fun with this scene. To just go
Yeah.
back to this scene and just like trying to optimize everything, and then you can see the screen here had like elements from the hologram above, and like just trying to optimize it all in a way where it did make sense. So it was an interesting challenge, and just keeping up with the poly count and the Unreal Engine forums was a good exercise for the future as well. And just being really open about sharing my work.
Yeah, it's got a theme to it as well. Like that's what I like. It's got the hologram stuff. It's got the like natural elements and the red sci-fi thing. I think it's really interesting for that.
It's it definitely stands out, right?
Yeah,
Like it's definitely something that you don't see that much.
true.
So yeah, maybe that's interesting for like a future color scheme. Just go really bold with the colors and just have it stand
Sure.
out. All right, man. Let's move it over back to you.
All right. Do you want to see something real bad or a little better? What do you think? We haven't really shit on me so much yet.
Yeah, I think you were kind of cheating with that first one because
Fuck,
it was looking
it
all
was,
right.
yeah, but it was complete shit in the back. It was like, oh, it was literally like it was thrown together. I didn't know what I was doing. So
Yeah.
you want to go?
Oh,
You want to go? Yeah.
actually, that might be a good thing to bring up. Like even if it's technically not right, but it looks good,
Yeah.
you
It
can score points with that too. Because
definitely. I
I've
mean,
heard some of those conversations about it where people just get so caught up in like all the technical stuff that they spend a ton of time on the technical stuff. I would even say that my scene that we just talked about is kind of a victim of that, where I was so focused on all the technical background stuff that I could have spent more time on the artistical stuff of just blending like all the modular pieces better together, have some nice trims, just make it more realistic in that way.
right.
Um, yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind. But
All
yeah,
right. So now
over
that you
to
called
you.
me a cheater, do you want to go there? Do you want to go here? Is this where you want to go?
Hey, that's up to you, man.
All right. I mean, I don't think I was cheating with that. I was really, I didn't like that, what I just showed. But I
Hmm.
guess we can go even further back. We can go 4 years ago. I guess this would have been like 4.5 years ago, just when I got into uni.
Yeah.
Um, and this, if you can see it, I have no idea if you can see it. I guess it depends on your monitor, because
And what is the name of this project?
it's called the Clark M1911.
Oh damn.
And yeah, maybe you can see something, maybe not, because this whole project is so incredibly dark. The background is pure 100% black, and half of the gun is too as well.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's horrible. Yeah, I wanted to make an M1911 because it's just like such a cool classic gun. But again, I didn't know how to really do it. This was, I think. Oh, there's an ambulance driving by. I hope you can't
Nah, that's fine.
Um, okay. So this is the first gun I made after the Tim Berghold's AKM tutorial,
Hmm.
where I was like, okay, now I know everything. I can do a gun on my own. But unfortunately, I didn't because the my outcome of the AKM tutorial wasn't too good anyway. So
Yep.
it wasn't the time yet to start my own project. But I guess yeah, that's what I did.
I mean, that's how you learn, right? You take all the
Yeah,
learnings from a tutorial and you turn it into a project for yourself.
yeah, and then you see what you can still improve.
Yep, exactly. Some baking issues on the handle.
Oh man, oof, yeah, just horrible like texture. Like it's also like the metal is like so bland. It's got a little bit of noise on it, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the handle is like super noisy, like super with all the height information and stuff, super scratchy and everything. Like
Yeah.
it's really weird. But
Pretty
look at
pretty
this,
generic edgeware as well. Like
it's completely
that's
generic.
that screenshot.
What was I thinking with the screenshot? It's like I rotated the camera, but I didn't rotate the light, so now it's just completely
Yeah, so
dark.
it's just like a black gun on a black background.
It's so horrible. Like, what is this? Yeah, and you can see here as well. Like, I did not add any polys to this. This is all like super,
Yep.
super geometrical. All these shapes, and then yeah, but it's low poly, I guess. Nice and optimized. Oof.
Some of those edges are pretty dense compared to some of the other ones, right?
Yeah,
It's kind of the same issue that I have in my
oh,
but then on
and
a
look at
smaller
this.
scale.
Look at the triangulation there. That's gotta have some. That's gotta create some problems at some point.
Nah, it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. So this is like really old days. Ugh. Yeah. This is that's the problem I was talking about there. I hope I can keep up with the editing. By the way, so I'm gonna be putting in the pictures that we're looking at right now. But I'm scrolling through the different ones, so I'm gonna try and have them all like have the according pictures to what we're talking about. But maybe if something that we're saying doesn't make sense, it's my fault. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, that nice smoke
little
at the end of the
smoke.
barrel, though.
Yeah. I mean that was cool, but yeah, it's just all in all, I had no idea how to do the correct high poly. This like all the edges are super sharp as well. Like
Yeah.
if you look at all that stuff, that's super sharp. Like back here on the hammer,
Ooh, yeah.
it's
That's like a razor thin edge.
yeah,
on,
completely. And yeah, just texturing is horrible. No, like I could have added a couple extra polys and then taken them away from some other places. It's just all in all super basic and super bad. But I mean, it's the first gun I made on my own, and that's I guess it's something to be proud of. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like if you're at this stage, you're at this stage in your model, like where would you focus? Because what I'm thinking about is that a lot of people, I can tell them that it's that is the lighting and the materials, but then they have an issue where they don't know where to focus or what to balance first. How would you tackle that?
interesting. I think if I had to, like, if you said, okay, you have to make this better, but you only have 3 hours, right? Something like that, right? I would go into my marmoset. I would put the background to like a more neutral gray. I would put the field of view down, and I would look at all the angles that I want of this gun, right? To render it, and I would look at what are the biggest problems. So but already from the view of the camera that I'm gonna have, right? So that I can focus on what's closest to the camera, what's most visible. And if I have, let's say, 3 hours, maybe I would be able to go into the model and fix some baking stuff. But let's just say I can't do that. Then I would just completely focus on making the texturing more interesting and more contrasted. So getting rid of some of that edgeware that is everywhere, and having specific edgeware like hand painted, maybe, or just like masked out at the places where it makes sense. So like around the specific edges that are maybe closer to other parts where they might get some extra edgeware, just not having the whole the whole slide part have like one white edge.
Yeah, and
Um,
and thinking about how people would interact with the gun too, and
exactly.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
where they would grip it, like where like was it like human oil or like skin oil would like deteriorate the textures.
Yeah. And just making this. Maybe I would probably even go as far as going for a different what would it be called, a different finish on the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe having it be like a metallic chrome finish, because then you can add like a little bit more of an interesting surface to it than this like weird what is it, anodized. I don't even know what this gunmetal thing is that I'm doing here. It's not defined at all. That's the thing. Like, it's not painted, but it kind of looks like it's painted.
Yeah.
But it's like a treated metal, but it doesn't really. Yeah, just. And like, if I look at the guns that I did lately, it's so like, the most important thing is like the material definition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here you can tell what kind of metal it is, right, on this gun. It's just
Yeah. So this
completely
is
different
back
thing.
on the Winchester, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have, yeah, like, you can instantly tell, okay, this is the metal, and it has like the scratches here, and there's some weird discoloration there because it's super old or whatever, and it has like some nice roughness variation, and it's interesting. And this one is just some generic scratches all over the place, and then some edge wear, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. It's just super boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
3
So-
likes though. But
Oh damn! Oh, 250 views and only 3 likes.
yeah. Oof. That
Oh.
hurts.
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know how I got 3 likes. This is all like my parents and a friend. Yep, pretty much. All right. Yeah. Do you want to move on to your next one?
Yeah, sounds good, man. So let's have a look at this one. Oh wait,
Ooh.
actually,
Oh.
should we jump a little bit further ahead?
Maybe. Yeah. I think the last one that I'm going to show is like one that I had in my portfolio when I applied for a job.
Oh,
So, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'll do the same thing then.
Cool.
So then we can talk about this one, which is actually still in my portfolio.
Oh.
Because I don't know, there's obvious mistakes with it, but I do just like the contrasting colors. Oh yeah, this is called the in what is it, like square brackets UE4,
Nice.
and then real time cave scene absolute zero. So this was like an assignment from school where we had to make a mock-up introduction screen, basically. So it was like, imagine if you're opening a game, like this is the first thing you see.
I would close that game.
Oh damn! Hey.
I'm sorry. I'm just just busting balls.
This is yeah, I think you're gonna see this red line, right? Like just again using modularity to get the most out of my scenes.
Definitely.
If we look at this screen, like you can see. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, making a cave is like really scary to me, just because there's so much. It's so hard to make it look realistic and interesting, and not just having like a bunch of rocks that you clip into each other.
Yeah.
Like, I really like that you have like this the structure of like the different sheets of rock that are kind of building up the walls of the rock and stuff. That actually is really cool.
Yeah, so that's actually quite interesting because I did that on purpose, but I only have one model for that.
Oh wow!
So you see the sides here. That is just like a scaled down version of the bigger ones. Then actually, I do have them. I do have them here. So these are like 2 rocks, but I didn't end up using this one.
Okay.
So I only used. I know that I'm jumping back and forth, so not making it easy for you. But if we're just looking at the picture, we can just see that this is basically one rock, but the top of it,
the pillar on the right.
Yeah. But I scaled it down on like the width of it, so it's like a bit tighter than it normally is. The top of it is flat, and the bottom of it is also flat. that's where you see these rocks.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same. They're the same
Yeah.
rock, but just use like the tops and the bottoms of them.
Cool.
And
Okay.
and the same goes for like this flat wall here. That's just like the bottom of that mesh again. The top of the cave. It's also tops and bottoms of those meshes. And then it's just yeah, you can get some interesting shapes when you just like intersect them through some of the flat pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that was pretty interesting. And then at the end, I think I added just like a one hexagonal kind of rock to just add some a little bit more variation.
Yeah.
Especially at the edges, you can see that there's like more sticking out.
Yeah. I get the silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. It's. I think you've. This shows like a lot of good thought behind it. I think there is like there. What's missing for me? First of all, I think there should the lighting could be a bit better, just like contrasted.
Mm-hmm.
But also for me, there's some stuff is like missing blending a little bit. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of see that it's just stuck into each other, which is actually it's going to be the same thing with what I'm going to show you. There's actually a lot of parallels between those two, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think like you said, like thinking about all that stuff, how you can make the most out of just a couple modules
Mm-hmm.
is really cool.
I think people always start with like this grand scope, but
Mm.
you can really make something happen with just like a minimal amount of stuff. Because
Yeah.
you can see the stalagmites and stalactites here that I have in this scene. Um, they're just the same mesh reused for the icicles as well, just a
Of
different
course.
shader on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Makes
that's
complete
it.
sense, man.
Obviously, yeah, just pointing out the thing that you said as well. It doesn't really make sense that they would just like cut into the rock like that. You would expect some transitions or like
Mm.
have sheets of ice on the roof as well.
Yeah, just some kind of natural transition between the materials. But I mean, yeah, that's
Exactly.
again,
And
that's 5 years ago, dude. That's fucking awesome.
yeah, it's also um it's good to have that hindsight, right? Because now doing having a lot of experience with like level art just by itself, it's like the stuff here is really flat.
Yeah.
So you can really do some interesting stuff if you just have this path, if you want to make it a path, just lower down than the rest. Have that
Mm.
natural transition blending between the rocks here, and then have all the water accumulate in the path itself. And just by doing that, you can really lead the eye through the entire scene.
Yeah, I think like if you would have used those hexagonal rocks a bit more and just made it like maybe had it around the wall so it starts getting higher and higher and it starts growing into the wall or something like that, and then just like having like using
So,
that kind of stuff more,
so
having more
sort of
structure
like
to it.
here, like on the top of this image,
Oh, that
but
is
then
weird that it's at the
but then
top.
better.
Yeah. I
Because
think it could have been really interesting with that because then the ground wouldn't have been as flat, right?
yeah, for sure. I think the issue with that is, looking back at this, it's just they go the total opposite direction. So you
Right.
have like these hexagonal rocks sticking out, going straight,
Yeah.
and then you have like the layered rock, which is just a
90
completely different direction.
degrees. That's true, yeah. But yeah, I think it's like I would say again, like this is really close to what I'm gonna show you in a lot of ways, which I think probably you had the same experience as me, which is something clicked while you were doing this,
Mhm.
probably, right? Like you were like, oh wait, this is how I can reuse that kind of stuff. I can just do it like this and this and this, and like something just made sense.
Yeah.
Maybe you weren't there yet with the texturing or modeling, just like I was for my scene, but it's just it opens up so many possibilities when you finally understand how you can go and
Mhm.
make something modular in like a cool way.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good point. I think this was the first project where I started using ZBrush as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, for me as well. It's literally that's crazy. It's a completely different project, but it's very close to.
This is going to be interesting then to just see the transition from this scene to what you're going to talk about next. Um, but yeah, there's also like a lot of technical stuff that I was trying out with just having like this water spline running
Mm.
down the entire scene and then having like a good shader for that. I did like a ton of work on the shader for the ice for the subsurface scattering. That was the first time that I
Oh.
tried that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was also right after they first added subsurface scattering to Unreal Engine.
Oh,
So it
so
was like, oh,
you were riding the wave.
let's try to push it into that space.
Cool, man.
And yeah, there's also there's some there's some fancy stuff that
Oh,
I
world
just
aligned snow. I see.
yeah. So
That's
I
cool.
made like a world aligned snow shader, and then I never used it.
Yeah,
Like
because I was gonna say there's no snow inside the cave,
you
obviously. So
you
there's.
can't see it. So I don't know, because I was thinking about like, oh, it would be cool.
Uh,
Well, you can kind of see it here,
yeah,
but it's so minimal that it wasn't worth the time invested. But I mean,
but you
it's
learned something.
yeah, exactly. And I also did the same thing where I had a panning water texture running
Mm-hmm.
down all my rocks, and that was like world space as well.
Oh,
So
so you could have
there
like a
was
rain.
yeah, there was like water leaking down from like these rocks and like
Oh,
going over it. But it was just like a panning texture that was like masked out to have like some flow to it.
that's
And
cool.
what I used there, and oh my god, I thought it was so smart back then. I used the particles in substance to just spray water on top of it,
Oh no.
as like it would mask like where it would run down the rock.
Oh yeah, because
So
that's what Substance is known for those particle
what else?
simulations.
Yeah. But I kind of used that. So I basically let it rain on top of the rock, and then where it would run down the mesh itself, I would just use that as a mask and then have like a panning water texture going over it. It kind of worked really nice. I think I even have
That's
it
an
in the
interesting idea, definitely.
I think I even have it in the video here, where it's like you
Oh yeah.
can kind of see it running down like all the different gullies, which is it's pretty interesting. But
Oh god,
like,
do I have to put the video in the video as well? Oh god,
oh,
this is gonna be a nightmare to edit.
well, you don't have to, right?
Maybe.
But I think people get the gist of just the explanation.
Yeah, hopefully.
Um, yeah, that's cool. I really love this scene. Just it's
Yeah.
obviously outdated, but I don't know. I'm still so proud of this scene just because it really started to click with the composition and how to use colors as well.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
it's 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 really it's so funny to me that all the things you say about that scene are true about mine. Like I feel the same way. I think it's a scene that I should probably get rid of in my portfolio,
mhm.
but it's such a personal thing to me because I learned so much during it
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm just like, no, fuck it, I'm gonna keep it.
yeah. Let's talk about it,
Um,
man. Let's jump over.
yeah. So this was my first scene that got like some attention on ArtStation, and my first bigger scene that I then used to apply, which is the modular fantasy town Unreal 4 scene.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and I actually, for some reason, I actually made the whole town instead of just making the corners that I would take screenshots of. I literally created a whole town with like the different district and stuff like that. It was pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But oh well. So this originated from a uni project where we had to take very basic modules, like just boxes, and have like, okay, this is the first floor box, then the second floor box, and the roof box.
Mm-hmm.
But we were only allowed to use like photo textures and stuff like that. And that was like our second semester exam. And I was like, this is a cool idea, but it's just super boring because it's all photo textures. There's no detail and nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I pretty much was like, I'm gonna redo my second semester exam, but just make it good. So what I did, or make it better, let's say. um, so so what I did was I started out with ZBrush as well. Like this is the first time I really used ZBrush for a project, and I made some tileable textures like the rocky stone walls, the wooden planks and stuff like that. And I was like so proud of reusing. For example, I reused the planks that I used for the wall texture to make the single planks that you see in the world, right? Or like the same rocks that I used for making the tileable, I also baked them down as just rocks to make these like cornerstones that I have around the edges of the buildings.
Yeah.
Which I was like, wow, this is so smart of me. I'm a genius. Did anyone ever think of this? Like it was just mind blowing. Like you said, like just something clicked, right?
Yeah.
And I understood like, oh, you can reuse so much stuff. And I also learned one big thing that I still use all the time now, which is like using a tileable and then modeling around the tileable. For example, if you look at the roofs, you can see that it has like a silhouette going around the tiles, right? Of the roof tiles.
Yeah.
So it's like the most basic thing that you can do, right? Just apply a texture in Max and then use the cut tool and cut around the edges of it.
It adds so much.
But it adds so much. You don't need like an extra mesh that you could put on the edge to give it silhouette. You can literally just model around the texture. And it's just such an easy thing to have. Like if you have a tiled floor, then you can cut out one of the tiles as if it like broke off or something, and it can add so much. And I also learned without really realizing it, I learned about trim sheets a little bit. So if you look at the well in the middle here, I had my stone texture that had like this trim on the top. You can see it pretty much everywhere here. Like it's got the trim at the top there. And then I was like, oh, I can completely stretch my texture and make it like go 360 degrees and just use it for this well. And then I have like this cool trim on the outside. I didn't know that it was a trim or that it was called that, but it was just, it was like kind of finding out for myself about trim sheets, which was like super valuable.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting that I think a lot of people just go through the same things, right? It's just you start modeling, you're so busy with like all the technical aspects, and then something just clicks at one point, and then you just try it, and then it works out where you have like the edges on the roof, for example, which is like it's obviously such a simple thing just to look back at it now, but at that point it just, oh my god, that's like revolutionary. It's like because you start thinking in a completely different way, where maybe I can do it with the planks too.
Exactly.
Then, shit, I have like a singular plank right now. That's awesome. And then maybe some crooked planks on some of the roofs, have them sticking out, and there's just so many opportunities there.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. Like at the end, I wasn't even baking new stuff. Like at first I would, if I had like the wheel that I have in the corner, like, or the other shields and the swords, I would just bake a new asset and just sculpt it again. But then at some point I was like, wait, why do I have to bake a crate if I already have planks and I have a plank texture? So I just use the wooden planks for the corners and then put the plank texture in between, which obviously isn't the best for like textile density and stuff. But it just meant that I didn't have to redo anything, and I could just create new things on the fly. Like I made like you probably can't see it, but I made like a whetstone, where you sharpen your swords. Just by taking the planks that I already had and then taking one of the stones and mapping it to a 360 degree thing, and it worked. That
is so fun when you just discover that, and you're just like, oh, if you look at this, like we're looking at like an asset list basically. And you probably started with the crate, and then we're like, well, maybe I have some metal textures, I can make a barrel out of this.
Exactly.
I'll just make like a destroyed barrel because I have the textures anyway. And then it just it's that transition between you look at a scene and you think everything is uniquely mapped, and you're just like, oh my god, how did this person make this scene? That's such a crazy time investment. But then you look at a breakdown and it's just like, oh, okay, they use this texture that they had here, and they just use it on another asset, and it just, it's so fun and so smart. Just to do it that way.
It was so revolutionary for me. Yeah, it's crazy when you finally discover that. Like I had like this one like bag of flour, and then I would just copy that over and bend it a couple different ways so I could put them in like against the corner, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even need a new texture for this,
man. And that is where the fun of modularity just comes in, where it's like you have this base package, and then you basically create it like your own Lego kit, and then
totally
you can just iterate on that.
And the cool thing about this was that I was also able to swap out textures.
Yep.
So, for example, as you can see, like the modules here, this is the stone texture with the stone edges around it on the main bit, and then here I still have the stone edges on the side, but I put bricks on it, and then this texture, for example, is like, I don't even know what it's called in English. It's like the plaster that has the wood sticking out of it. You know, it's very like Germanic and stuff, like this kind of stuff here.
Oh yeah, Waddle and Daub, I think. It has like a really specific name.
Yeah, all right, let's look it up.
Oh god.
I don't even remember what it's called in German now. Fachwerk. Truss, I guess, is what it's called. Truss.
No, but that's just a framework, right?
That's just a frame in itself. Fachwerk house, half timbered house.
Yeah,
I don't know, whatever it's called. Yeah, so that's what it is, and I would just like replace that with like wooden planks and replace that with just a plaster, and then I discovered decals, and I was like, wow, I can make like a broken brick thing and just plop it on there, and then it looks like there's bricks under this.
Yep.
I made my first ever tree that is complete fucking horror if you look at it up close.
Oh, damn. Branches are not attached to
the alpha cards. But yeah, it was like at some point it just became a natural thing. Like, oh, let's put another plank here. Let's put like a laundry line of laundry over there.
Yeah, and just have like a sewer grate and all that stuff as well. Like,
yeah,
there's so many.
Yeah, exactly. That was
and
yeah,
the
that
same
was
thing
like
for the door as well.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I could just plop them everything into each other. I mean, I think it's a big thing that I did this in a stylized texturing way, because I feel like just plopping like this sewer grate on that wall, it kind of also works because it's stylized, because there doesn't need to be that blending, because that's a big thing here, right? There's like not a lot of blending between the different things.
Yeah. That's the thing we talked about before with my scene too, right? But then even if you wanted to add that blending, it would just, looking back at it now, it would just be like a decal sheet. Where it's like, probably, for the sewer grate, it could be like a water puddle that's coming out of it, and then just blending it with the wall. Could be like a dirt texture or whatever, where it's like accumulating dirt in the corners.
And this is like, I made a separate post about the textures here, and this is also the first time where I used vertex painting for like blending the different textures, which was kind of cool.
So you would have, if we go back to like the road texture, you would have one
mud,
quote unquote pristine road, and then like one super muddy road, and then you could just blend between them.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, now I would also set that up a little bit differently, but still. And I was making all those textures in Substance, and I kind of that's also pretty much what I'm doing right now for my stylized scene, because I'm just too lazy to hand paint stuff. I just set up like a little smart material that does what I want, kind of, you know. It adds the correct edge wear for it, and adds the correct like little AO and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's also what gives it that uniform look. If you start from like a generator, that's kind of creating that consistency between all the textures.
Yeah, and that's
cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I could talk about a lot that's wrong with this one, but I feel like it's a lot more interesting because I learned so much with this. It's just like talking about what I could take from this, I think, is even more interesting than what I did wrong. Because there's still like the tree looks horrible. I could have added a lot more geometry in some places.
Yeah.
Some normals are weird because I didn't really know how to like if I reused, for example, I baked stuff badly so it had a gradient in the texture, which then of course means that you can't just plop it onto another mesh. But I did because I didn't know any better. So then you have the gradient on the new mesh, and it looks really weird. Like on the planks, for example, I made like some other planks that had weird gradients on them.
Yeah.
But I think that's not like you have like you said with your scene, right? It's such a big stepping stone when you finally understand modularity and stuff like that in a big way, and find out, I don't need to make everything unique. I can just take that thing from over there and plop it over there and give it a different texture, and it looks great. It looks different. And I was even able to like tell some small stories. Like there's like a house that's under construction that has like a decal on the wall and then a couple planks over it and a ladder next to it. And then the church is just different pieces of houses scaled up. I made a different version for the like with the pointy window, put 2 stone slabs as a cross on top of it, and that was my church.
I love it. Just those 2 stone slabs, just like just shove them into each other. Now I have a church. Done.
Yeah. And I think it shows you a little bit like how then some unique assets can then bring it to the next level, right? So I wouldn't call this artwork next level, but you know what I mean. Like then having for example, I made some. I don't even know if you can see it anywhere here, but having like the sign for this pub there, right?
Yeah.
It just makes it stand out compared to all the other more generic buildings, or then having like like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you could have like a statue in the middle of the town. Because that's also how it most of the time works in games. It's like you have a lot of generic stuff that is combined in a different way than you've seen it before. But then there's obviously like the hero props or the stuff that stands out and needs to, in most cases, to either tell a story or is like reinforcing the world building around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. It's so nice that we have like 2 completely different looking projects, but they basically triggered the same thing.
Totally. I think like you said, it got the same ball rolling for each of us, right? We understood how all that stuff works, how we can get the most of modular stuff, and I mean I think it's ultimately something that probably helped a lot with me getting my first job, even though this wasn't technically the most beautiful textures or the best sculpts, and also the presentation could have been a lot nicer with a lower field of view and also better lighting.
But it has so much potential, right? Just
definitely
in like the scope of it, because you could have this, like say even if you would have built like one corner, you could still take all of those buildings, all those building elements, and make like an entire town like you did. Or you could even take it one step further. If you were making a game, for example, you could use all these building blocks that you have here, only use a specific stone texture for that specific town, and you give it like a unique identity already.
I was thinking what would be cool with this kind of stuff, because it's also all kind of low resi, like at least geometry wise. Like you could make like a building game out of this, like Anno or something.
Oh yeah,
and just build like the different kind of, because I have like a wooden like a lumber mill. I have a like the marketplace. I have the pub, stuff like that. You could make like cool stuff out of that, and just that's the thing. It just gives you so many options, and I think that's probably what, when people look at this for like a job application, they can see, oh, maybe this guy, he can learn to make some better textures. He can learn to, model a bit more efficiently, but at least he understands that you can reuse stuff, and like how you can make a lot out of a little bit.
It's just clever thinking, like out of the box thinking. And even though it's a standard, especially now,
like the stylized fantasy town thing.
But it's just like the modular way of thinking. If you think about that and you reach it on your own, then it kind of shows that you're always willing to push like the boundaries of what you currently think of. If that makes sense. Like you're always thinking outside of the box, and I think that's also what really makes it interesting if you're going into a job and you're explaining this and they can instantly see like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
It was such a big thing to click in my mind. I mean, it's awesome. And it was also great because it was like the first thing that I ever made that got like some appreciation on ArtStation, and I actually ended up doing a 80 level article about it, which probably also like it can only help with a job, right?
Yep, for
It's
sure.
just getting your name out there, man. It's what it's all about.
Hell yeah. And also something that jumped out is the thing that you wrote is like the last 2 months I did this in my free time, and a lot of people that look at this might be somewhat intimidated by that fact, but just what we discussed before, like if you think about it in a clever way, reuse a lot of stuff, like you can easily do this thing yourself.
I can't believe I did this for 2 months, man. What I'm doing now is like just a corner of the city, but I mean, obviously, it's way more complex than this. But still,
Well, yeah, sometimes I also think that we just overthink it,
yeah.
right?
Also, though, like if I think back, this is when I was at uni and I was doing 6 hours of uni and then 8 hours of personal work a day.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I pretty much like did this like a full-time job, right? And now I haven't really worked on my scene in a long time, and even if like back when I did, I would maybe do like an hour or two a day. So it's
Mm-hmm.
2 months, I guess, is like very. It's just 2 months of like pretty much only working on this. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's,
That's awesome, man. And normally we were thinking about rounding this this podcast off with just another question like we normally do, but we're already running, looking at the current timer, at like an hour and 10 minutes, so this is
Jesus.
definitely the longest episode by far.
Yeah,
So I think we're just gonna skip on the Patreon question for this week and just do it next week.
let's do it.
So yeah, man, this was a super interesting episode. It's awesome to look back at this stuff. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope that it's interesting for the viewers as well. But I think it's like kind of like seeing where we learned stuff and where we were able to, looking back at it, find stuff that's wrong with it and stuff that's interesting about it. I think it can help people with like finding where they want to go with their personal work, maybe. I hope that's what it does, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And just don't be afraid to try out stuff and think outside of the box, and just try to split it up in like this great example, just modular ways, and have fun with it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's gonna do it for episode 20 of the podcast. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll
Thank you,
catch you
guys.
next week.
Bye-bye.
See ya. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If you did, then you can check out the playlist on the right for more episodes, and don't forget to like, subscribe, or share it with friends. If you're an environment artist trying to break into the industry, or just looking to grow your skills, you can find a ton more resources like weekly tips, blog posts, and more on beyondextend.com. But that's going to do it from our side. Thanks so much for joining us, and a shout out to all of our Patreon supporters who made this possible.